What if you could analyze thousands of customer reviews on Trustpilot, Glassdoor information about that company, as well as the reviews from previous or current employees, anything on the company's LinkedIn page, as well as the company website in minutes and not days? In today's video, I'm going to show you how to do exactly that with this PR Analyst agent that's going to be able to analyze all of these different data sources and give you a great output at the end. And I'll show you how to turn this AI agent into your secret PR weapon. But first, let's jump into a quick demo to see exactly how it works. We'll come down to test workflow. We're going to be able to capture some submissions on our e-form. So all we need to do is upload the URL for the Trustpilot, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, and company website. It's going to go off and do the rest. So again, this is saving you hours per workflow, scraping through hundreds of reviews from customers or hundreds of reviews from employees, as well as any data that's on their LinkedIn, so trying to get insights into their latest posts or their website as well. So this will save at least 1 or 2 days per company that you're analyzing just to get the current base. We're going to run through all of this, how to build it from scratch, as well as the costs that sit around it as well, which is much cheaper than using platforms like Apify. So as you can see here, we're going through step by step, able to analyze the data, get the data sets back. We'll wait for this to come back and I'll show you the last and final step here around generating the report. So as we can see here, it's now gone through, got all of this information, both on Trustpilot, around the company's website. We've got company LinkedIn data, so much that we're able to use to get this inside the report that would have taken an analyst hours and hours and hours to try and generate. We've now got a really detailed report that we're able to get out the back of it, and we can see it in Google Docs. So now if I come across, we'll be able to see that we've got a folder that's been generated, as well as the document in here with all of the key points that we would need as a PR team to either share with that organization or just have as a base understanding ready for a sales conversation. And if you want to get access to any of the resources that we run through today, make sure to come across to our school community. You come into Classroom, you'll get access to all of this from day one for your free 7-day trial. We'll come into where we've got our AI agent. We'll come down to where we've got AI PR Analyst. We'll see that we've got all of these different curl requests in here, so it makes it nice and easy to copy and paste, as well as all the different prompts. We'll be able to come down the bottom, download the blueprint, come across to a new workflow that we've got in n8n, 3 dots, import from file, upload the blueprint, and you'll be all ready to go straight away. You won't have to do a thing. So let's get straight into the video. Let's get rid of all of this. And then we're going to come down to the center. So we'll refocus. So what we're going to do is come across and do our form first. And then we're going to do on form event. Then we're going to go through and give it some information. We'll call it PR Company Discovery Report. We'll give it a quick description. So this will be discovery into potential customer / new customer, just to get some insights into them. We're going to come through and add a couple of different form elements. So we can do company name, we can add company website, we can add company LinkedIn, we can add company Glass, and then we can come through and add company and then Trustpilot. So then we'll be able to go through and get all of this information across these different channels. Now what we're going to do is come through and Google and then Drive afterwards. We're going to add a create folder module after this, so that we can go through and store all of this information. If you've not added your Google credential before, I'll include the link below to this site here, which will just walk you through how to set it up step by step, and will give you access to some of the videos in the community that show you exactly how to do this. So we've got it all set up, ready to go. What we're going to need is some dummy data to feed through to be able to get the output that we're looking for. So I'm going to come across to Trustpilot, which is just a really great website to be able to find company review data. Again, this is really good maybe from a marketing side to identify potential customers that you'd be able to go after, and you've already generated a really detailed report so that you could go and add value from day one. So they've got lots and lots of different ones that you can do here. If we come up, you've got different categories that you could go through as well. I'm just going to keep it nice and simple for this demo. We'll come down and choose this one here, Atom Bank, to be able to go through and analyze this company. So we're going to be able to create a form submission. So we're going to come into here, test our workflow. It's going to open up this site. We'll do Atom Bank, company website. We'll come back across. We're going to visit the website and then we'll just get the URL. So we'll paste that back into here. I'll do a quick search for their LinkedIn. There we go. And we'll paste that in there. company Glassdoor, I'm going to do a quick Google search for them. And then what we can see here is we've got the Glassdoor submission. So we'll be able to copy this link, come back across, paste in there. So it's got all of the details that we need by the looks of it. And finally, we'll come back and get that Trustpilot one as well, so that we'll be able to go through and analyze all of these different steps within the company. We'll come back across to n8n. Looks like it's captured it all correctly, so that's great. Now we can go through and give it a test. So now we'll come back into our Google Drive folder. We'll give the company name as the folder name. I've already got a folder generated. So this is called PR Agencies and then Company Analysis. This is where I'm storing all of the demo data that we build out today. So what I'm going to do is come back across and then just add that in here. There we go. Now we're all connected. So now if I do test step, we should get it all green. So that means it's done it. And if I come back across, we'll see that we've got the result in here ready to go. So now if I come back across, what we'll be able to do is go out and generate the information that we need. So again, quite a few different parts to go through. I'm going to start with doing the information around Trustpilot. So I'll add that in here. So this will enable us to see from a customer point of view if it's going well or not. So we'll be able to do a HTTP request. We're then going to need to come across to Bright Data, which is a website that I find is really good, being able to scrape lots of data, as well as being able to enrich information. It's got lots of different platforms that we're able to integrate with. We can bypass a lot of bot blockers as well, so we can get the insights that we really need. Lots of compliancy side as well, so it's great. And as you can see here, used by lots of different companies, organizations, as you can see here, and scrape lots of data incredibly cheaply. We're going to come into user dashboard. We're then going to come across to this spider looking area here. We're going to look at the web scrapers library. We'll come into where we've got B2B, and then we'll open this up. We're going to be using the Glassdoor and the LinkedIn a bit later on. We're going to come down to Trustpilot first. Then we're going to click into here where we've got collect business reviews by URL. We're going to be using this scraper API to start off with. We're going to come across to our request builder. We're going to get rid of these two entries here. Now what we can see here is we've got the ability to add the URL. So now if I paste in there, we should have our URL populated and it brings it across here. So now we can see it's part of the curl request that we'll be able to copy across. We've now got a few different options for how much data we want. So just for this demo, I'm going to limit it to the last 30 days. But if we wanted that full year's worth of data, then we would be able to do that as well. We're also going to be paying $0.0015 per record that comes back. It does take a little while for some of this data to come back, but again, depends on the volume that we're scraping. If we compare that to Applify, so we do Trustpilot for some of the data that you scrape from here, what we'll see is that it's going to cost you at least $10 a month to get data through this one. And it's not got some very good reviews. So we're able to get some really good reviews very cheaply and only pay for what we use. We're going to copy this curl request, come back into here. We're going to paste our request in there. So now we'll be all good to go, all loaded up. So it's going to add our URL straight away, any of the query parameters we're putting through, as well as our authorization, the bearer token, everything in that space. We're going to need to come down here. And where we've got our URL, this is going to be where we need to add in our Trustpilot a bit more dynamically. So we change this to expression. We're going to pop this out. We're going to pull this across so we can see the data a bit better. I'm going to delete the URL here because then what we can do is add the company Trustpilot in there. So then we can make it dynamic for any of the companies that come through. We'll say get Trustpilot data just as its name. And again, we're going to be capturing that last 30 days. Now what we need to do is send this request off and we're going to wait for the details to come back. So that's where we'll get our snapshot ID. So we'll know it's running in the background and it's trying to find that information for us. So now what we're going to need to do is come through. We'll do HTTP request. We're going to add that in there. We're going to need to come across to our documentation. What we want to do is add try here. We're then going to come across. We're going to add our bearer token in there. We'll copy that across a bit earlier on. We're going to add our snapshot ID back in the actual n8n area. We're going to say the format is JSON, and then we're going to keep the rest the same. We'll come back. We're going to copy this curl request, come back across, import in there. And now we've got the ability to go through and analyze this. So what we're going to do is remove this snapshot ID, and then we're going to pull across where we've got from the Trustpilot data. So this is going to return that specific snapshot, i.e. all the data that goes with it. What we're also going to do is come to the end, and we're just going to paste question mark and then format equals JSON to make sure that we get it back as a JSON response. We've also got that added in here. So again, it depends on which way that you want to format it. Just make sure that you have one of them selected. We're going to come down and add our API token back in. So we'll come back across. We're going to copy and then paste, copy and then paste. We'll rename this to just get Trustpilot data. Actually, we'll rename this to data set so we don't get that one, which just says it's a duplicate coming through. So now if we do test step, what we should see is that it's either completed as we've got here, or we're going to need to have a loop to make sure that we'll be able to get that information as we go through and that request completes. So we're going to need an if statement in. We're then going to add, we'll do curly brackets and then JSON.status. And then what we're going to do is running, because then if this is running, it's going to go back through and actually loop the process until we get it correct. So if it's equal to, so actually we'll change this to if it's not equal to, so then we'll have the false as wait. And then we're going to wait, say 30 seconds for this to come back. And then what we'll do is have a set node in here. And we're going to add in our token. So we're going to need to click in here. We're going to give it a snapshot _ID. We're going to need to do our curly brackets in here. Again, we need it as an expression. We're going to need to come in the middle. We're going to do a $sign and then brackets. Then we're going to need to have 2 quotation marks. And then after this, just add item.json.snapshot_ID. We're going to add get and then Trustpilot dataset. So this is where we're going to have the ID that we'll be able to use. We'll be able to add that in there and then loop back around so that if it's not quite completed yet, we'll be able to go through and get that data, and we'll repeat this for all of the other ones that we'll have later on for the different areas we're analyzing. As it's come back, we can see that we've got 308 different reviews over the last couple of days, which is great. But we're going to want to be able to analyze all this information. So we can do aggregate. We can then come through and do all items into a single list. This is going to get all of the information from before, so that we can go through and analyze it in one go for these 318 reviews versus anything else. Perhaps we only want some of the specific information. So what we can actually do is do individual fields. We'll then be able to say, for example, review content. We could then come through and say review rating. We could also come through and identify review post overall. We could identify any of the other key information. So we've got this rating status. We've got details about the company in there. We've got the review URL. Maybe that's something that you would want to analyze. So again, we can include as much of this data on the left-hand side here as we want. So if we go through, we'll get rid of this. We'll just retest the step so that we get maybe some more specific data that we want to analyze versus anything else. So as we can see here, we've now got all the different ratings if we wanted to analyze that, as well as the ratings or reviews posted overall if we wanted to, and the review URL. So again, we can go through and analyze as much or as little as this as we want. We're going to come through, and just for time, I'm going to do a basic LLM chain. And then what we're going to do is change this to define below. We're going to have this as the review context. So again, this is going to have all of the different information that we've got from the reviews over the last couple of days. We're going to add our prompt in here. We'll be able to come back across the resources. We'll scroll past all of the HTTP curl requests here, which again, you'll get access to from straight away. We'll be able to copy this AI agent prompt. We're going to paste our prompt in here. We're just keeping it nice and concise for this specific one so that we can go through and analyze all of the Trustpilot reviews. There we go. So now if we do test step, what we should be able to do is, it's not going to work. So we need to add our OpenAI brain in here. If you've not done this before, make sure to come through and add your credential. All you need to do is come across to Playground of OpenAI, add your API key in here, and you'll be all good to go to be able to use it. We're going to use our ChatGPT 4. I think we're going to go to the 4.1 this time so that we can test that out a bit more. Again, it's still incredibly cheap to be able to get these outputs. Maybe we want to do the mini, or you can try out the nano. Again, see what works best for you on that intelligence versus cost side for the outputs you're trying to get. Now, if we do test step, what we should be able to do is get all of this data analyzed and a nice concise report outputted so that we can go and use that if we wanted to. What we're going to do is then aggregate this together at the end with all of the different reviews that we're analyzing. Whilst we're waiting for this to come back, we'll come down. We're going to add our glass door in here. So now what we can see in here is we've now got a really good response that's come back that we'll be able to use a bit later on. So this is all good to go. Now we're going to come down and do Glassdoor. So we're going to do HTTP request. What we're going to do is come back across to our bright data. We're going to come back up to where we've got our library, so B2B. We'll come across to Glassdoor. Now we've already got the specific information for that company. So we can do this company overview by URL. We'll do scraper URL. We're going to come into our API builder. We're going to get rid of all of these. So we've only got one request in here. We can include all of this information, copy, come back across. We're going to import from curl in there. And again, we're all ready to go now. API key is added there already. So we're going to come into here, change expression. We're then going to put across where we've got our URL request. So we're going to get rid of this. We'll put across the Glassdoor in there. So now we'll be able to rename this to analyze Glassdoor. And then what this will be able to do is analyze all of the different responses that we get back through. So we'll be able to do test step. This will go off and generate our snapshot request again. So then what we're going to do for time is just copy some of this across. So we'll pull this down and then we're going to connect this up. So it's going to be able to get that request that we had from earlier on. So I'll just rename this to get Glassdoor. And then what we'll be able to do is if we come in here, we can do test step and we should get lots of information back about that specific company. So as you can see here, as we mentioned, we have that status is currently running. So in this use case, it looks like it takes around 29 seconds to generate one report for that specific URL. So if you have multiple different URLs, it's going to take 30 seconds per URL, basically. So we're going to come back across. We'll do test step again. What we should now have is lots and lots of information. So we can see career rating opportunity, CEO approval. We've got benefit review. We've got the rankings on the number, career distribution, salary count, lots and lots of information that we'll be able to use, as well as the interview experience. It looks like this one's quite positive. And we've got the industry and some other information that may be quite useful. Something that we are going to use is this reviews here, because that's going to give us insight into those reports that people post around what it's like working in a company. So what we're going to do is come across, we'll do basic LLM chain. And then again, we're going to go through and analyze the response we get back. So we'll do test step. We'll connect our OpenAI brain up here. Or again, if you've got multiple different ones, you can also connect it into one and they'll all use the same one. So then what we'll be able to do is come back into our agent. We're going to do define below. So we're going to pull across all of this information as we need it. We'll be able to come down. We're going to get our Glassdoor actual prompt for the AI agent versus the input that we're going to need. So this is going to basically analyze all of the different information that it gets provided with so that we can go out and get all of the responses that we need. So what I'll do is I'll just copy all of this across. Again, you'll get access to the template in a community. We'll be able to come down, we'll be able to copy our Glassdoor agent input. So there we go, all added in, ready to go. And one of the things I love about n8n is on the right hand side here, we can see all of the different information as the AI would in this case that's being fed through. So now we'll be able to do test step and we're going to go through and analyze it so we can get that response out so that we can use it a bit later on for our big report at the end. So we'll just wait for this to come back. We'll do save. It looks like we've got it all ready to go. So there we go. It looks like we've got lots and lots of information that we can use all around that company, diversity and inclusion scores. We've got suggested room for improvement and much, much more as well. So that's great. That's exactly what we want. We'll rename it to Analyze Glassdoor Report. So now what we're going to need to do is do the second phase of the Glassdoor. So this is going to be all around analyzing the company's actual reviews. So what we'll do is come into here, we'll do Glassdoor reviews. We're then going to come out of there. We're going to put across and do HTTP request. We're then going to come back across to our bright data. We're going to come back up to where we've got our Glassdoor. So there we go. Now we're going to come down to this bottom right hand corner here, company reviews, collect by URL. We're going to do the scraper URL, come back to API requests. We can search the number of days. So again, if you wanted to be the last 365 days, we could do that as well. What we're going to do is copy this across. We're then going to come back into our request. We're going to paste the curl in there and we're going to do import. Now what we'll be able to do is scroll a bit further down. We're going to come down to where we've got the reviews, pop this out and then look to the left hand side where we've got the data. Now this is going to be for the review specifically. So current employees, former employees, sharing their thoughts. So what we'll do is we'll do it over the last 100 days because I don't know how much data is in here. So we'll be able to give that a test. We'll rename this to Get Company Glassdoor Reviews. We'll be able to do test steps. So now it looks like we've got that snapshot that's been sent off. So that means it's successfully generating that response. We're going to copy and paste across here just for wait modules. So this is where, again, if it's not completed, we'll be able to save it. What we'll do is just connect this up again. We're going to do rename. We'll come out of here. We're then going to do test step. We'll see if we've got any reviews that have come back already. This is still running at the moment. If we come back across to our documentation, so it takes a couple of seconds per input. So it may take a little while for this response to come back, but think about how much time this is saving you versus having to do it manually once we get it fully automated. So there we go. It looks like we've had 3 reviews in the last 100 days. So as you scale that with the last year or so, which is typically how many days we would look at for a review, we can see maybe any changes as well. So we're going to do aggregate. We're then going to look at the fields on the left-hand side here. So we've got lots and lots of different ones that we can leverage. Maybe we want to do ones around employee status. We can have a look at the information around some of the overall ratings. We can do work-life balance, perhaps. We can have a look at if there's anything on the pros side. We can add anything on the nons or the clash side. We can have a look at any of these ratings as well. So lots and lots of data that we can add in here. We want this summary report in here as well. So now it looks like we've got a couple of different areas that we can use to go through and do our analysis. So as we can see here, we had a regular, intern and contract. We had a 5, 3 and a 5 the review. There was one missing review for the rating of work-life balance. We've got some of the pros here. We've got some of the cons each one. And we've got the summary at the end here as well. So what we'll do is we'll come pull this up to the top. We're then going to be able to add our AI module in here. So again, we'll do basic LLM chain. The reason I'm using this is because, as we saw a bit earlier, we can change the model specifically. So if you really like the OpenAI way of speaking, we can use that. So ChatGPT, if you really like Claude, we can use that. Maybe if you need a really big context window, you'd be able to use Gemini just to make sure you don't run into any issues. We'll come through and add our OpenAI, again, that 4.1, so that we can go through and try and keep these costs nice and low for the analysis we're doing. So we'll change this to be defined below. We're going to need to add in all of our data up here. We'll be able to come down to where we've got our Glassdoor reviews agent prompt. We'll copy all of this so that we can use it. We'll add in our AI agent prompt in here. So this will be all ready to go for us to be able to analyze. In this case, what we'll be able to do is come back up to the top. We'll change it to expression. We're going to come down to where we've got our Glassdoor reviews agent input. So we'll be able to copy this. So there we go. We've got all of the different ones added, and we can see what would be passed on the right hand side here. What I would look to do is aggregate this more by maybe category of that individual status or region, if we were going to go through and deploy this for a customer, versus what we can see here is just more of that basic, let's get this up and running quickly. We'll rename this to analyze Glassdoor reviews. We'll do test step. So now what we're going to do is have the overall output of all of the data that we had on the Glassdoor website. So as we can see here, lots more generic information around the actual bank. But what we can see in here is we're going to get more of a detailed insight from a PR lens on the specific data that maybe we want to investigate, i.e. the statuses of those recent reviews, their balances, works for improvement, again, all of this sort of stuff that we would really want to use if we were going to maybe mitigate any PI issues or plan for the future, or then maybe this is used by a marketing team to figure out how they can go to market a bit better as well. So now we've got our Trustpilot data and our Glassdoor data. What we'll do is we'll come down, we'll duplicate this, and then we're going to show you just how to be able to leverage LinkedIn. What we'll do is we'll come back across. We're going to come back up to our proxies, back across to the web scraper library. We'll come into LinkedIn. We're looking for collect company information. And then what we'll be able to do is our no scraper AI, or on the left, the scraper AI. We're going to do request builder. We're going to get rid of all of this information on the left-hand side here. So now we've just got one. We'll copy this across. We'll come back into our agent. We'll pull this down and we're going to do a HTTP request again. Again, lots of different requests here just so that we can get the data off and get it responded back as we need it to us. So we'll come down. We're going to change this LinkedIn URL because we've already got it on the left-hand side ready to go. We'll be able to pull this across, add that in there. We're going to be able to say analyze LinkedIn data. We'll get that request back, we'll get that snapshot request back as well. So all we need to do, exactly the same as the other ones, is we're going to need a wait module as well as be able to get that snapshot request. So we'll just make sure that this is all tied up together. We'll connect that up. We'll rename it to LinkedIn data. We'll get rid of this node bit on the right hand side here. If we come back across, again, we're paying around, it's going to take around 3 seconds and 0.0015 per record. So the only most expensive part at the moment is going to be our Trustpilot because of the volume of cases or reviews that we're going to get back. So you need to keep an eye on that. Otherwise, for Glassdoor, it's going to be very cheap. The same with LinkedIn because we're only analyzing one request each time. So now what we should see is we've got all of this data on the right-hand side that comes back. So we've got their location, the number of followers, employees. We can see that we've got some information around their company. We can see some of the employees there as well. So I think Mike was mentioned a bit earlier on being the CEO. So again, we could analyze him independently. We can see some competitors. So if we were doing some competitor analysis, we'd be able to do that as well. I just collapsed that down. We can see the updates. So these are the latest LinkedIn posts. So we'd be able to analyze them, see how we could improve it, what maybe has a higher like count versus the time. So we can identify what works, what resonates, where they need to improve. It looks like they've got quite a few posts. So I'm just going to come and close that down. We can see that we've got some slogans in there as well. So maybe they need to improve that, change that. Lots and lots of data in here that we'd be able to use if we wanted to. So what we'll do is we'll come out of here. We'll come up and we'll do basic LLM chain. We'll be able to change this to define below. We're going to add all of the information in there in a second. We'll change this to expression and add our AI agent prompt in here. We'll come down to our last one here, which is just around the LinkedIn agent prompt. We'll be able to copy all of that. Or sorry, we've got the web agent come. We're going to paste our prompt in here. So what this is doing is acting as a public relations strategist, analyzing what are the key information, seeing if they're visible, not visible, what do their leaders say, all of this key information. Now we're going to need to go through and add in our prompt. So we'll do test step. We're going to need to feed in all of this information. So again, we'll come up to expression. We'll open this up. We're then going to paste in all of the commands. We'll come down to our LinkedIn agent. Again, this is going to be the input with all the information we need. So we'll copy all of this. We'll paste it in here. So now what we can see is that we've got all of the information about the company on the right-hand side here, as well as some of their recent posts. We can see the number of likes recently, any of the competitors, any recognitions, lots of information here that we would be able to use. We'll just rename this. We'll be able to do test step. And now what we should be able to do is use it. We'll just connect up our OpenAI brain that we had from a bit earlier on. We'll do test step again. Now what we should do is get the output that we're looking for. So now it's going through analyzing all of this information, and we should get our output node any second now. What we'll be able to do is save. Now this has been all of the information around specific information that's out there in the public domain. Maybe we also want to understand a bit about their website. So we can come down and do company and then website. We can see that we've got our report back. So it looks like there's lots and lots of information here that we'll be able to use. So now what we're going to do is the last and final part, just around getting some information. So we've analyzed a lot already. We're just going to quickly check their website so we can see if there's any latest news on there. So we're going to come across to the web scraper library. We're going to come down to the bottom where they do have this crawler API. What this enables us to do is overcome any bot blockers. So we'll always be able to access that website. So where it's always got capture or, complete this to verify you're not a human, we're able to get past that to scrape all of the data that we need to understand maybe a bit more about that company. We'll copy this request in. We'll come back across. We're going to import our curl ready to go. And then what we'll do is we'll come down the bottom here and we're just going to change this website. Again, we need to take it out of the array because we've only got one request going through. And this website we'll just put across on the left-hand side here so that we can go through and analyze this website. We'll do test step. So what we're going to do is come out of here. We'll just need to copy across these as we did beforehand. We're going to put them down there. We'll connect this up. We'll just rename this to get to website data. We're going to come down. We'll rename this to website crawl. We'll do save. We'll just give this a quick test, see if we've got the data back already. So it looks like it has. Quite a few different ways that we can use it. I'm going to use this HTML to text. So it's already been able to identify the information. If you're a bit more comfortable using the HTML, I recommend you go through and analyze that. Try and get the information from that stage as well. We'll be able to come through and do basic LLM chain again. We're then going to be able to do define below. We're going to trigger our updated version here. We've now got the ability to go through and add our prompt. And I'm going to use that text to HTML so that we can use that in there. Looks like there's lots and lots of information here that we can use. One thing that you will need to keep an eye on is just your token rate limit if you're using OpenAI. If you put too many requests through with too many words in essence, it will go through and it won't stop you. I've got quite a high rate limit, so we're able to go through and use that. The other side is you could use a code module beforehand just to maybe analyze this and strip out some of the key information, get rid of any web links, anything like that, just to try and keep your token cost a little bit lower as well. We'll connect this up so that we can use it in a second. We're going to pull this down. We'll just come back into here, change to expression, open up our system prompt. We'll come down and then we'll copy this website agent prompt as well. So we'll be able to use that. So again, you'll get access to all of this, plus all of the different curl requests that we've used to make it nice and easy to get you up and started incredibly quickly. Plus the blueprint if you want access to it as well. We'll come back across there. So there we go. We'll paste our prompt in here. Again, this is going to go through and analyze it from lots of different positions. We'll just rename this to analyze website. We'll be able to do save. We're going to do test step. What this will do is then go through and give us the report. So now we've got all of the different elements. We're going to come to the right-hand side here. We're going to do a merge node because we want to pull all of this information together. We're going to do 5 different steps because we're going to need to put across where we've got our Trustpilot data. We're going to need to do one Glassdoor, which is from our initial report. We're also going to do that second Glassdoor. We're then going to need to put across the LinkedIn as well as that company website as well. What we may need to do is just up this to 6, because then we'd also need to put across that web document that we had from earlier on, just from that Google Drive, so we know exactly what drive it is to store all of this information. So now what we should have is that report that's come back. So yeah, there we go. It looks like it's got lots of information on here around that specific company. So now what we do is test set, and we'll get all of this data aggregated together so that we can go through and write a detailed report. I've not shown it here, but for example, other versions that we've got on the school community, it will show you how to upload it and store it into Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, so that you can go through and use it that way and be able to reference all of the data. So it looks like we've had an error. I think that's because in here, we've just referenced, the wrong one. So we'll come across, we're going to put across this ID here. And then what we'll do is we'll just go back through and we'll just rename this. So we've got analyze the LinkedIn data instead. We'll come back through and then we'll do website crawl on here as well. So website crawl. So now we're referencing this start node for each one. We'll rename this to get Trustpilot data. So again, more that first set here. So now what we should be able to do is if we remove this, do test data, it should now come through and actually start generating a report for us. So as we can see here, it's going to go through, get all of this information for us. We've already got one green node because it's already generated that specific Google Drive folder for us. So I'll just wait for all of this to come back. And then what we're going to be able to do is leverage all of this. We're going to aggregate it all together into a single list, because then we'll be able to generate our report with us with all of these different insights. So I'll just wait for this to come back. Great. So we've got all of the information that's come back. I've just changed the colors as well, so it's a bit easier to digest what the information is. So now if we come through here, what we should see is we've got 6 different inputs or items. If we come across to our aggregate module, we've got all of this review content, because of course that came through for one of the nodes. But more importantly, we've got all of this different stuff that we can use for this specific merge, and that's what we want. So now what we're going to come through and do is do aggregate, or all of the steps for this specific one. So now we've got the Trustpilot reviews, we've got the company snapshots. You can go through and rename these if you wanted to, so that we know exactly which one it is. But now we've got all of the data that we can go through and generate it. So now what we'll do is we'll come through and we'll do basic LLM chain. What we're going to do is come through and actually write a report. So we'll be able to pull this across. But first, we're going to come through and add our prompt in here as usual. So expression, pop this out, and then paste in here. Again, you'll get access to all of this in the resources in the school community. We're going to put it across. So you'll do Trustpilot. We'll then be able to pull this across. We'll open this up. What we're going to do is come through and say website data. We'll be able to say Glassdoor data, and then we'll also say LinkedIn data. So now we'll be able to put it across. So we've got the LinkedIn data here. We should be able to see the website data from here. We'll be able to see Glassdoor data is the first one, so we'll have this in here. We'll also have Glassdoor reviews, so we'll pull that across as well. So we add that in there. So now it's got lots and lots of information on that company that we can go through and generate a document for. Each of these tasks would have been 2 or 3 hours alone manually to go through and analyze this volume of information and produce the output we're looking for. We can come through and we'll add our OpenAI. Actually, we're going to bump it up to our 4.1 so that we're going to go through and get a better output. If you wanted to use maybe the deep reasoning from O3 or O4, you could use that to generate the report as well. We'll just test this again. And now what we should get is a really good output that we'll be able to use with that company straight away or internally to be able to analyze all of the different information we've got access to. So there we go. We've now got our output that's come back. So what we'll be able to do is come across, we'll do Docs, Google Docs, create a new document. This is where we're going to need to add our title in here. So actually what we can do is come back into here. We're going to change the output into require specifics. We're going to say that we want structured JSON. We'll say that a concise title of the report that can be shared with a customer. We'll also come through and say details of report, and then we'll come through and we'll add all of the key details of the report that will be shared with the customer. So now if we do save and we retest this, what we should do is get an output that we'll be able to use both that title to name the document, but also be able to go through and store all of the information we've generated in the specific document itself so that we can go back and reference it. There we go. So we've now got it back with our title as well as all of the details of the report. So we'll be able to put across the title into here. We're going to be able to change the folder name. We're going to come on the left-hand side. We'll have this drive ID from the one that we generated earlier on and we aggregated together. So now if we do test step, it will go off and it will store this one in our Google Drive. So if we come out of here, what we should do is come across. So we've got this atomic bank here, and now we've got the exec summary, but we've got no data in here, as we can see at the moment. If we come back across, what we'll do is a docs, we'll do update a document. We're then going to come across, the doc ID is the one that we've just generated, and all of this text in here is going to be details of the report. Now we'll do test that. And as you can see, it's executed. And if we come back through, we've now got lots of information here that we will be able to go through and use. So that's how quick and easy it is to go from an idea all the way through to having a detailed report on what they should do and how they can improve it. If you wanted to get this sent to you as well, you could do Google and then Google Drive. We'd then be able to do download a file. We can then come through and do file conversions. We would change the file here to be the document ID, and we would add conversion. So anything that comes from Google Docs comes through as a PDF. We'll do save. And now what you'll be able to do is have that outputted as a PDF. So if you wanted to go through and send this as a document to anyone, maybe over email, Slack, Teams, you'll be able to do that straight away. That's been a really quick video just to show you how you're able to generate all of this information that would have taken 2 hours per step for a PR analyst, or around 2 days to actually go and get all of this information for an entire PR company, able to do it in a matter of minutes with lots of details and insights that go through. If you like what you saw, definitely make sure to come across to our community. You get access to everything from day one, including all of the resources that we've developed for lots and lots of different AI agents, as well as our new masterclasses around, for example, image generation, how to do that, plus all of these other courses that are coming through, like prompt engineering is here, as well as other ones like business analyst, so that you can get the most out of the latest and greatest to do with AI. That's been a really quick video. Stay tuned for more around AI agents, automation, and have a great day.